So, for those who are new, welcome. What this is we have our agenda, so if you want to scan the QR code with some helpful links. And if you are new here, one of the best things you can do is go to our website and join the club. You'll be on our newsletter. It's very easy, but we don't spam you, but it's a great way to stay in touch. And what we're going to do is we're going to start off with the icebreaker. So what you're going to do is get in a very small group. You're going to introduce yourself, say your first name, and the two questions are: who would you like to see to run for Senator Gary Peters' open seat in 2026 and why? And who do you want to see to run for Michigan governor in 2026 and why? So we'll take about 4 minutes, introduce yourself, and say hi to your neighbor.
Hi. Hi. She's in the.
I just asked, my name, so Pete, yeah, he lives in Fairbanks. His husband is from yeah, I really like him. He came out against Trump. Well, the Secretary of State. No, that's not. The Secretary of State. Already, oh, I think right there. Vice chair. I don't know if they have any. Vice chair. Was the vote? Yes. When is the vote for chair of the National Democrats? Was it yesterday? With all of the.
I should know that because I saw David.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw folks like because he had I don't know what event it was, but he had like designed drinks under his name, so I was able
Well, let me just say, they should have just given him the vice chair. They should just give it to him because that's what they need. We need new young guys.
I totally get it, totally get it.
That's all.
New glasses. You like them? Hello, how are you? Good.
Where's the one for the commission?
Shar.
Anyone else? I don't know. We don't know.
All right. All right, so I'll turn to our guest speaker momentarily, but just kind of quick shout out. We're in a very lucky region from our local government to our state to our federal government where we have a lot of like-minded people. But the one thing this week, I used to work under the Trump administration for another U.S. senator. As things get passed and you are impacted, the best thing you can do with your local elected officials is tell how you are being impacted by that policy. So if you want to call their office, if you want to send an email, but we need to capture these stories. So again, it's going to be chaos for a while, but we had a lot of public pressure this week with the grants. It was very successful. We had to keep together and being very vocal. So again, work together on that, but I'm very excited. We have Trina Toko, who is the co-director of the Michigan Education and Justice Coalition, and a round of applause. I think you can.
Sure, a little bit.
No, I do. Want to start?
Michigan Education Coalition. Justice. Justice Coalition.
Remember, I explained this to you. Do you want to try to explain it?
No.
What does this one mean to you?
No.
We don't remember. Okay. Well, we'll actually do introductions in a second. I like to start with this. So at Michigan Education Justice Coalition, we think about. Oh, better.
Sorry, thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry. At Michigan Education Justice Coalition, we think about things not just around equality, not just around equity, but actual liberation, right? And so what that looks like is when we've got equality, right? Everybody's got the same box. That's all right, right? Everyone's got the same box. That's okay. Equity, people are getting what they need, right? The person that needs more than one box, right? Because everybody needs to see over the fence. But why the heck do we have the fence? Right? We don't need the fence, right? So liberation, right, is really about really taking a look at the systems, right? And what do we need to get rid of barriers? We really don't need to be there in the first place, right? Because we don't even need the boxes if we don't have the fence, right? Hey, Berkey.
Oh, God.
Oh, do you think we can read this one or no?
No.
Okay. So Michigan Education Justice Coalition is a statewide coalition of organizations fighting for education justice. Parents, students, community members, and educators. And we believe that every student deserves healthy in schools. We also, just for y'all, we do have a C4 as well. So the Michigan Education Justice Coalition is our C3, and then we have an action fund, which is our C4, and endorse or like, including some of the folks in this room at times. Okay, now this is all you.
Trina, Eli, and Wilson. Eli, do you want to go first or me? My name is Uriah Toko.
Closer and look down.
My name is Uriah Toko. I'm in 8th grade at Little Road Middle School. One thing I like about school is I have a lot of friends and I get to go on cool trips. I go to play a condo. I have a lot of friends, and the one thing that I want to change is having chickens.
At school.
Yeah.
Want chickens at school.
And also, having a pool in our school.
So the program, we want to have chickens and a swimming pool. So that's something that we would like is a change. And I am Trina. I am the mom of these two incredible humans. First and foremost. And we live here in Marlowe,
Yes.
right? And am here a little bit haphazard, right? Which is,
And Fortnite.
we also like Fortnite. Oh, we want Fortnite at school. That's not happening. Ever. Right, which is why we have the school board members to make sure things like that are not a thing. So we are here as a family and involved in education issues haphazardly. My incredible son back there, who's being as true to middle school as you can be. In fifth grade, by the third time he was, or not in fifth grade, sorry, in kindergarten. So he's 5. By the third time he got suspended, I, as a mom, was like, number one, I'm a single mom trying to just like work and pay for the things I need to pay for. And if I can't go to work because I keep getting calls and all this stuff happening at school, like we got a real big problem for our family, right? So that was like number one. But number two, he's 5, right? Like, he doesn't care that he gets suspended, right? So as a mom, and as a community organizer, I was like, wait, what is happening? Right? Like, I agree. My kid is doing some things that are not okay, right? Full stop, right? Like there were some things I didn't know how to fix it, right? Other people didn't know how to fix it. My kid is 5, right? We're trying to fix. Who's had complicated children in their lives, right? And you're like, it's hungry. I could just, be punished for a day and be told this will then make it better the next day. Right? We all would have done that, right?
Does that?
Nana does it?
She puts you in timeout.
Well, timeout, right? So, but what we found is that, the system was such that I had to think about with my community organizer hat, right? What is the system at play? What is happening? What is forcing people that are good teachers, good administrators, right? Caring people. But we didn't know what else to do, right? We were kind of all at our wits' end. And that said to me that something in the system was wrong, right? And so today I want to talk to you about the system, right? And also to just remind you that this system impacts our community, right? Right here, right? Like my kids are examples of how the system has not given them what they need. But by the end of this, I promise, we will have a way to imagine a new system, right? And a system that works for everybody. You gonna help me push the buttons?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, please. Okay. Oh,
One.
what are some issues you see in education right now? Like what's going on? Well, that was it's not for you. So say who has an answer?
Please.
Yes.
Cell phone use.
My kid was actually, my son was gonna come up here and say that the biggest challenge was that cell phones aren't allowed. Clearly, there's a challenge.
Anybody else? You.
Say that again. Shootings. Shootings.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's no good. Right? No good.
We're not doing the homework.
Not doing homework? That's a problem.
Yeah.
Any other?
Absenteeism.
So can you repeat it?
You.
No, you. Absenteeism, so you don't know what that means, like where when kids aren't at school.
Oh.
Yeah, like when you don't want to go to school.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we just from this example, right? Like we've got things that are community issues, right? Shootings that sometimes, are in our schools, but are certainly connected to what's happening around our schools. We've got technology use, right? Or just other things coming at our kids, right? My daughter mentioned, the simple thing of homework and the joys of trying to get your kids to do homework.
And also lockdown drills.
Okay. So those are a thing, right? How many of us have had a lockdown drill? Right? So this is a thing that anybody under the age of probably 25, right, has this as a regular part of their lives, right? And the rest of us that weren't of that age, right, just can't imagine it, but it actually happens pretty regularly, right?
Daily.
Okay, we're gonna move on. Look at. Okay, so one of these things that we have noticed that all of these issues connect to are often challenges with lack of resources and funding in our schools, right? When our schools don't have the money to have well-trained folks, right, that can be taught, or our schools maybe don't have enough money to pay for people to make sure that every kid is being checked on every day, right? You get kids that are starting to, go through the cracks, right? Just on the way here, my son said, oh, my girlfriend is talking to somebody else who's got, suicidal thoughts, right? Like this is a real thing in our schools, right? Our kids are dealing with massive mental health issues that are not just necessarily coming from the schools, but they're humans, right? They're full humans, so they bring these things into our schools. And whether we like it or not, our schools got to figure it out, right? Because that's just another element in their world. So from 1995 to 2020, Michigan school funding declined, right? So a lot of this, like, we're, the highest funding to, schools in Michigan ever. Amazing, awesome, we're super excited. But let's be clear, we had a long time of divestment from our schools, right? So we're just catching up, right? 90% of schools, or 90% of students in Michigan go to schools that do not meet adequacy, right? Which means we know that they cannot pay for the things they are supposed to be doing in their schools. And Michigan is last place, dead last, in the nation for school funding growth since 1995. Yes. Oh, the DeVosses. Let's see what so the DeVos, so this is an old stat, but I just love it. So the DeVos family contributed $26,785 a day to influence an electoral outcome in Michigan over the course of a month and a half in 2016. Right? And it just has grown since then, right? So this is what we're up against, right? Just massive amounts of money. So the places where we see the largest inequities, right? So that 90% of kids not getting what they need, this is where we see it show up the most. So special education, right? So what that means is kids aren't maybe, so for instance, my kid was at Ferndale for many, many years and couldn't get a parapro. He was at Royal Oak for 1 week and had 2 parapros. So what's a parapro? Right, it's an aid, right, somebody to help. But so the idea is that there are real differences, like right here in our communities that you drive through every day, right, in terms of funding and capacity to pay for these very basic things. Another thing is facilities, right? So Royal Oak schools, I'm going to say sometimes I feel like they look like castles, when I go to other places and see, what we're dealing with, right? And I know that's kind of shocking, right? When my kids even move through communities, or imagine when you've got kids from other parts of the state, right? Like that haven't had the funds to upgrade their facilities, right? They see that's it's such a glaring example. Like, has anyone seen just a school building that's just so out of date and you're just like, how is anyone learning in that space, right? Like, how is the internet getting through the walls, right? Like really basic things, right? And then finally, transportation. Another critical issue is a lot of our northern Michigan schools, right, have to spend a lot of money on transportation, right? We all know that's a big issue in Royal Oak because Royal Oak schools don't have buses, right? And it's because it costs a lot of money, right? So these are the sorts of things that, really do. And so you can imagine, transportation massively impacts a family, right? If a family can't get their kids to school, right, that's causing absenteeism, for instance, right? So these are just some examples. I want you. That's your job. Okay, so the fight back. So we launched a thing called Babies Over Billionaires. Who likes that name? Babies Over Billionaires. Right? It's a good name. It's a good name. I venture to say that in this room, we all like babies. We prefer babies, right? Over billionaires. And the goal is the goal of raising a graduated income tax. So a graduated income tax, I'm sure some of you know what this is, some of you don't. So in Michigan right now, we have a flat income tax. So whether you make $1 million or $10,000, you pay the same income tax rate, right? And that's enshrined in our Michigan Constitution. And so what we're saying is that, we're gonna need to grow this pot, right? Like, we're doing what we can with the funds that we have in our schools, but we need more funds for our schools. And so you all know the only way to get more funds is to find additional ways to bring revenue into our state budgets. Right?
Okay, what was the question?
There's no question. Okay. And so a graduated income tax would be basically the Constitution would say that as your income grows, you pay progressively more tax, right? So you're paying more when you earn more, right? The general fund has dropped 30%, and per pupil funding has dropped 25% since 2000. That may be a little out of date from the last 2 years, but right, so this is just a reality check, right? We're cutting back funds to our schools. Working class families contribute over 10% of their income to state and local taxes, while millionaires hover just around 6%. In a 2021 poll, 61% of likely voters said they would support a fair tax that would increase taxes on the top 5% of Michigan earners. So, and we all know, right, if it wasn't clear before, this last election is a clear indication of what we need to be doing as a country, right? And if that wasn't enough, lame duck certainly helped clarify what's happening in Michigan, which is that wealthy folks and corporations right now are running the show, right? They're making the decisions about a lot of things. And it's time they started to pay their fair share, right? People are tired of seeing, wealthy folks and politicians think they have the power over all the rest of us, right? Thinking that they know what's best for us. And it's time that we demonstrated for ourselves and our kids, right? Like, our kids need to know this is not okay. And that we need to build power for positive change in our community. And we, like at MEJC, we say you organize people and you organize money, right? Like, that's how that's how change happens, and that's how you get power. You got this. Okay, so we are currently exploring a graduated income tax ballot initiative. So I thought that was just worth And you all know the legal reasons why I have to say currently exploring. Or if you don't, feel free to ask me later. But this is, so just wanted to let this crew know, this is something, that you could be seeing in the future. Go one more time, and I think this is pretty much it. Okay, we already went over this. Okay, and then finally, because we know that people don't really like the idea of paying more taxes, even if it's that we're telling someone else to pay more taxes, right? We got to start to educate folks in our own communities, right, about what the needs are for our kids in our schools. And so I wanted to invite all of you to join us for Fight Night, Babies versus Billionaires, on Tuesday. So you can go to our Facebook page, Michigan Education Justice Coalition, and get more information. But that's where we start.
It's on February 4th at 7 p.m.
So thank you all. Any questions?
I'm just curious on the per pupil funding numbers. I'm curious if that's in dollars or accounting for inflation. And when you say that the funding has dropped.
Inflation.
Inflation.
It's inflation, and sometimes it's been dollars, right?
Okay.
But it's inflation.
I just ask because sometimes I hear people push back that like, well, if you look at the dollars, it's not that such without accounting.
So to be clear, in the law right now, there is no accounting for inflation. So per pupil stays the same until an actual dollar increase. It is not adjusted for inflation.
Yeah.
It's a lot of the money that's lost going to the private schools, money being taken from public schools, the private schools, that educate their people.
So right now in Michigan, right, and the Michigan Constitution says that public money cannot go to private schools, right? That does not mean a private charter school, to be clear. And so we'll just add that, sorry, Mike, are we wrapping up? Is that what you're trying to tell me? Oh, you have a question, okay. Right now, that is not the case. There is two things that have happened. One is that there's been federal legislation introduced to create universal vouchers. So that way, even in a place like Michigan, there would be a way to take basically your per pupil allocation, and you could move it from a public school over to a private school. So that's one thing that could happen. And then, as we all may have remembered, there was a scheme 2.5 years ago called Let My Kids Learn. And there were folks collecting signatures across the state saying that it was for foster kids to get scholarships. But it was really a voucher initiative paid for by the DeVosses and friends. So that did not pass. But I say it just to say that these things are always swirling.
Yes.
Yes, members just like me often want to understand how they can contact speakers and get involved and things like that. So if you have something you can share with the group, if they want to learn more or join in your efforts, thank you very much.
I was a terrible organizer this morning. And I realized 5 minutes before this, I did not have a sign-up sheet. And I was like, 25 years of doing this, and I forgot a friggin' sign-up sheet? Who does that? So I happen to have some things in my car, because any good organizer has some things in their car. So I do have a couple of pledge forms, but also I'm sure that, we could figure out a way to, however we want to do, right, there's lots of ways. If you're interested, let me know. I can make sure you get more information.
And we'll send a follow-up email with the contact information and resources.
Yeah.
I do have a question about the charters, which you didn't cover, and to me, it seems like just a real, I think they're underperforming public schools, and where does that fit into your strategy? Because I feel it's just diminishing the impact of public schools, taking away resources, privatizing, no transparency, blah, 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 about their performance.
And OT.
She's talking about occupational therapy. I don't know why she, I think because she really likes her OT. So charters, I think it's really important, particularly in a room. I'm gonna be like pretty frank with y'all. I'm seeing mostly folks of the white variety. And so let's be clear. Charter schools in Michigan are mostly in Black and brown communities. And they are mostly, frankly, taking the role of schools that have been closed, right? So a lot of times there are school deserts, right? Just like there are a lot, there are food deserts and other sorts of things like that. Charter schools have actually often filled that need. So I just want to be transparent, right? Like that is real. Families want their kids to go to schools that are close by them, right? And in some places across the state, you would be surprised that there aren't close elementary schools, right? Especially. However, to your point, right? Charter schools, by and large, do the same or worse than the traditional public schools, right? So they are not actually making our kids any better, right? Like
Very old fashioned.
I mean, that's what I love, right? Thank you, Tim. And we would absolutely agree with you that while there may be some good charter schools out there, the ones that are seeking profit, or the ones that are, what is it? They have a management company that runs the building, and then the state pays that management company for rent when they already own the building, right? So we know that there's a lot of funding inequities that come from charter schools. The one thing I will say that we just did win was we actually got a per pupil decrease for virtual charter schools, right? So imagine this, a virtual charter school actually gets the same amount of money per pupil as an in-person Royal Oak School District, right? So that kid has to show up maybe a couple times a week. There are no buildings to maintain, right? Like, so we're trying to really get at some of the transparency and accountability needed, because we agree with you. Yeah, it is a broken system, for sure.
What about ADHD kids?
ADHD kids, how many people know some of them? I know a lot of them. I'll put up a lot of hands, right? So it's really about just making sure that we have the money and the people that we need to help the kids with ADHD. Right? Because you learn in a different way, right? So it doesn't mean you can't learn, it just means you gotta learn different, right?
Anybody else?
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. I was just wondering, do you know that Trump signed an executive order to send federal funds to private schools 2 days ago? I mean, I don't know much about it, so I
You know, I
can't.
was kind of expecting when I said, what are the issues? At the beginning, that y'all would be like, now our schools, ICE can come. Well, exactly, yeah, I mean, so at this point, there's probably a good 15 to 20 of those executive orders that have negative impacts on our schools. So what I will say is that, I think, one, we're all drinking from a fire hydrant, right? And two, it is about two things. We will have to continue to be reactive, right, for the next couple of years. However, if that is all that we do, right, we're gonna just end up in the same place or worse, right, than where we are right now. So that's why, as much as I would, want to sit up here and talk about like what we need to do about immigration and other things, because that shit is terrible, right? It's not okay. And yeah, I said shit. Right? Like we're about like, what's the systems change even in these moments? So it's both things.
Yeah.
For your organization, when you guys do outreach and advocacy, is it primarily through the state? Is it through like local cities? What is your approach to do that?
So we do things at a couple of different levels. So we have parent organizing committees across the state. We also have a youth organizing committee that is representative of youth from across the state. And so parent organizing committees might do things like planning a listening session, right? Or maybe they're going to do a town hall with the school district CFO, so everyone understands the budget, because ain't nobody understands these damn budgets, right? So, and then maybe all of them together will go to Lansing, because we also recognize that the chair of the education committee, and especially the chair of the education appropriations committees, right, need to hear directly, right? They need to know my kid's story, right? They need to know the teacher's story, right? So all of the above, and then finally I'll just say, now because Trump is just making my job harder, now we're also trying to figure out how do we, connect with Tim Walper, right? And some of the others.
One last question? I just want to make a comment. Our wonderful governor in the this last term of hers created 3 school lunches for every child in this state. That's incredible. So can't learn when you're hungry. You can't pay attention when you're hungry. That it's incredible that she did that. So we should give her.
Okay. I'm gonna give you a half applause for that, because I would also encourage our governor to actually think about how is she gonna keep making sure that we have the funds to pay for those free lunches when she keeps doing some things that are undercutting our schooling fund.
Big round of applause. Thank you so much. That was a wonderful presentation. And the best presenter over there. So one thing I forgot is our treasurer's report. So our treasurer's report for our checking account, we have $4,009.60. For our savings account, we have $292.68. So thank you on that. Next, do we have any candidates before we go to elected officials? Probably too early for that. Okay, elected officials. Can we start off with our wonderful state representative, Natalie Price? Sorry, oh, I'm sorry. Woody, come on up. Sorry, candidates. I'm sorry. I didn't see your hand. I'm sorry.
I'm new to this, so I wasn't sure if you were referring to me.
No, you're good.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Woody Gantina. I currently serve on the Planning Commission here in Royal Oak. Woody Gantina. Good morning. I currently serve on the Planning Commission here in Royal Oak. I'm also the chair of our Environmental Advisory Board, and I've recently decided that I'm going to be running for City Commission this year. So, you recognize a few faces in the room, but a lot of you I have not met before. So I'm looking forward to meeting you, talking with you, and hopefully getting your help and support as I begin my first campaign for any elected role. So thank you.
Any other candidates? State Representative Natalie Price.
Thank you. Thank you. So, last few weeks, been paying a lot more attention to federal news than usual because a lot of it could affect the state. I think there's a lot of us on edge wondering how much potential federal cuts are going to impact our state budget. Right now, we rely 42% of our state budget relies on federal funding. So especially in those areas of education, Medicaid, the DHHS and school aid budgets, we're really wondering how they will be impacted. I'm following it closely and preparing as much as we can. But just this week, 2 days ago, we received our committee assignments in the State House. Remember, in our last election, we lost majority. So the Speaker of the House who determines our committees and committee assignments is a Republican. Some bad news. He pretty much fully rejected our minority leader, our Democratic leader's recommendations for our committee assignments. Absolutely unprecedented. Made it very clear that if you are the expert on school aid, like my good friend Regina Weiss, who served fantastically as the school aid chair and made historic positive changes in our school aid budget, that she would not have the opportunity to serve as minority vice chair. And that is true on so many of our budget and policy committees, that our best Democratic representatives and experts in that area would not be given the position of serving as minority vice chair, the highest position in those areas. So it was really challenging for a lot of my colleagues who worked very hard to get to know those budgets, get to know those policy areas, to find out that our recommendations would not be upheld. I just want to acknowledge that. I will now share, for me, good news. My ask was to be the minority vice chair of one of the now three DHHS, Department of Health and Human Services budgets. My minority vice chair recommended me to be the minority vice chair of one of the three, and I was very pleased with that recommendation. The speaker rejected that recommendation, but made me the minority vice chair of one of the other DHHS budgets, and the one that actually has more influence than the one I was recommending. So personally, I am very pleased that I was given relatively a good position to be minority vice chair of the most major DHHS budget. I look forward to spending the next 2 years digging deep into that budget, doing what I can, working with the chair of that budget, who I do have a working relationship with. One of the more reasonable Republicans from my point of view. And also working with the DHHS chair over in the Senate, Sylvia Santana, great relationship with her. So I am looking forward to the work that I'll be able to get to do over the next 2 years. I think another thing that I learned that was an important lesson for me, the 2 weeks before, and a lot of people have asked, why did he wait so long to give you these assignments, right? This, again, unprecedented to be this far into the year, right before the governor's budget recommendations. We just received our assignments. This is very strange. Well, I believe he waited for so long to use those positions, not direct threats, but sort of an underlying threat that if we acted out against him, we voted against things he wanted, we went publicly and spoke out against him, we would be less likely to get those assignments. It definitely impacted decisions of a lot of my colleagues and came very close to impacting mine. And yet it didn't. If you look at my stateside post, the 2 weeks before I got that appointment, I didn't hold back. I came out publicly against their transgender, erasing transgender people bills that they announced. I voted against what he wanted, House Bills 4001 and 4002. We talked about this at the last meeting relating to the sub-minimum wage, the minimum wage and paid sick time. Remember, if you were here last meeting, Dave Woodward did a great job giving you an analysis of that and explaining why us not taking action on that is good for our values, right? So I voted against those, while understanding that that might jeopardize my position to have my ability to have a meaningful position. So for me, thank you. And I also posted that I was at the protest march in DC, protesting the Trump administration. Again, when I made that post, I was well aware that that might jeopardize my position to get something meaningful, and it didn't. Now, that's not to say that I don't believe that some of my colleagues were punished, but I think they were punished more because they have the expertise and the ability to make meaningful changes in their subject areas. And I know that there are a few of them that came out publicly specifically against the speaker and were punished as a result. So it's all over the place. But for me, the lesson learned was to keep speaking out, keep representing my constituents with my votes and in the media and saying what's going on, and to not get too tied to this position. I'm going to do whatever I can, whether I get to keep this position, as I hope. And if I get kicked out of it because I take a vote or make a position against the speaker, so be it. I'll find other ways to speak up and let people know what's going on. That's sort of the lay of the land in the House right now. We might remember last term I had 5 committees. Now I have 2, right? So this DHHS Appropriations Committee is one of them. And I'm also on the Appropriations Subcommittee for EAGLE, the overseeing or giving money, it's complicated, but the Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy Department that we have. This was not a position that I requested or have any expertise in. This is a great example of those who have been serving on that committee, building up that great expertise, not being reappointed to do that work, right? He put me on there. I don't have that background or ability to do great work yet. And yet I will be determined to learn the budget, to dig in, to understand where I can offer amendments and work against, I believe their main goal would be to defund, right, take money and resources away from our state department that oversees environmental oversight on a lot of our corporations. So I think, again, putting Democrats in there that don't have experience there is a very strategic move. What can I do? Well, I can learn, right? I was a teacher, an educator. I believe in the power of learning, and I'm already picking the brains of my colleagues who understand that budget and having them help me. How can I prepare when I'm in those committees to push back as much as I possibly can? So those are my 2 committee assignments. As usual, too, you know, I'll be doing some policy work. I've got a few bipartisan bills I'm working with some Republicans on. You'll probably see us step out in the news about great enthusiasm. Guys, this is where we're at. Like, we were fighting for such major, exciting changes that would impact so much. And now I'm gonna be out talking about permitting dogs in microbreweries. But this is the kind of legislation that Republicans are eager to work with me on, and I need to have those good relationships with the Republicans. Well, I see Lauren nodding, you understand, right? We do what we can, we build the relationships, and then hopefully when it comes down to something really essential, I can go to that Rep Roth, who's gonna be working with me on permitting dogs in microbreweries. And
Natalie, how about the cats?
oh yeah, no, I'm the media loves the pets, and yeah, you're right. I will probably get slammed on not allowing the cats, but I'm doing what I can. And if only we treated our people in Michigan as well as we treat pets. Like, I'm telling you guys, some of these bills. But yeah, so you'll be seeing me talking next week about introducing those bills. I will be doing some just complete messaging bills that we know are not gonna go anywhere. I'm sad I missed the beginning of the talk about school funding, and I hear that you did cover a ballot initiative, which exploring a ballot initiative. Fund My Future, I am working with them on a bill to, pretty soon we'll see a report of a statewide survey for infrastructure needs. Did you talk about that? Yeah. And it's going to be it's going to show, I am sure, that we are in the billions, maybe tens of billions of money that we need to just keep our schools functional and safe and clean water and air conditioning and heat for our students, right? There will be a public announcement for an incredible amount of need. So I'm working on a bill with Fund My Future that would provide a dedicated way in which that money can be raised. That, again, permissive, but a way to raise the money for infrastructure. And tying it to messaging about how we need to change the way that we tax. Right now in Michigan, we have a very completely flat, by constitution, flat income tax. It does harm to tax in this inequitable way. We rely on sales tax and property tax in Michigan. And as a result, people with the lowest quintile of income pay disproportionately significantly higher of their income toward taxes overall. So we're going to be talking about tying our inequitable taxation system to being able to support and fund our schools. And there will be a bill, yes, that will help us message on it. And we recognize that it's not going to go anywhere. Our speaker has made it clear he does not value schools. And as I think I heard at the end, you pointed out, when he talks about how to raise money for roads, it's very clear that he wants to take money from our schools to get money for roads. So we have to push back with our own messaging. Hey, Michiganders, imagine what it could look like if we taxed equitably to do things like take care of our kids. So I'll have both. I'll have very reasonable bipartisan bills and very unable to move, but important for messaging bills that we'll be releasing and talking about from my office. Yes, question in the back.
Hi. and or traditional, site on Facebook, which is useless in my opinion. Are there other avenues that you're reaching out to, online, those kind of things?
Great question. How am I engaging with media? Couple things. So you will see that I have two distinct media entities as an individual. I got my stateside hat, where I'm using stateside resources and talking about legislation. It's fine to talk about myself as a Democrat, supporting Democrat things. We don't actively talk about running for office, campaigning, or even supporting ballot initiatives that might be on the ballot, right? So that's like stateside entity. And then there's non-stateside, which is the campaign side of things. And so like those press releases that I'm talking about for bills that I'm introducing, the messaging that I did over the past 2 weeks, that was very much through my stateside outreach. I'm relying on our stateside comms team. They have media lists, they help provide content, but also my staff is fantastic with comms. Those of you who know my back desk has, yeah, he was a charter school English teacher before I hired him, but with a master's in linguistics, and he's the best, strongest writer, honestly, I've ever met. So he writes a lot of my things. We release them to the traditional media, and we put what we can on socials. We're going to be doing more because, again, I'm going from 5 committees to 2. I have more time, and I recognize that messaging is one of my greatest tools in minority. So if you follow the stateside account, you'll see little videos where I go direct to camera talking about things out on the floor that I'm facing, that I'm seeing, that I'm hearing. And that is on stateside Facebook, on Instagram. We moved completely to Blue Sky away from X, but then my comms team said, look, the Lansing reporters are still only on X. If you want to have any chance of getting covered by them, which you do in minority, you gotta put your content on X as well. So you'll see me on both. Hate it. Here I am. And one more. What's the other? Twitter, Instagram. I feel like there's a Blue Sky. I'm not. I know. Some of my colleagues are on TikTok and other places. I'm not there yet. But yeah, those are the places you'll be able to find me on social. Now, here's another fun thing. So I'm also the secretary. I'm on the board of the Progressive Women's Caucus in Lansing. We take on amplifying issues related to women's issues, LGBTQ issues, a lot in the gun violence prevention work, because we see one of the major packages, in fact, it's the first major package we're going to be out and promoting is going to be related to stalking and domestic violence. So we've got some overlap there. Our speaker, by the way, has faced some charges related to domestic violence. So this is part of us like challenging him. Oh yeah, we dare you to throw that over to GovOps and ignore it. Like, let's see what the media will do if he refused to give us any even ability to testify in committee on domestic violence issues, right? So that was strategic. But one of the things that we're exploring with that work is doing some non-traditional media outreach. So on Tuesday, we'll have our next board meeting, and we have a proposal from an organization some of you might be familiar with called the Guerrilla Politic, based out of Detroit. They work with a lot of progressive organizations. They do a podcast. If it's not on your radar, check it out. It's called Point of Disorder. They do that along with Distill Social. And so we are hoping to be working in partnership with the Guerrilla Politic and their non-traditional media outreach to help amplify issues that the Progressive Women's Caucus will be working with. And as soon as we get, if you guys go and search for Michigan Progressive Women's Caucus, you will see like the most outdated clip art logo. It's embarrassing. This is it. We are putting energy, we are putting resources, we are putting time into stepping up our messaging game. Stay tuned. I'm hoping within the next month or 2, you will see a whole new rebranding that will be done with professionals in a very collaborative way with their stakeholders. And I will be thrilled to come here and announce for you to all go follow the work of the Progressive Women's Okay, thank you. Oh, one more.
By stateside, are you talking about the public radio?
No, I'm sorry, that is a Lansing term that I am throwing around, so thank you for asking for clarification. When I talk about stateside in this way, I'm just talking about as opposed to campaign work. So this is such a bizarre thing. When I was on city council, we didn't have this sort of distinction that when we're in our stateside role, in our stateside buildings, or using any resources that are paid for with taxpayer money. That's probably the best way to do it. Our comms team in Michigan is paid for with taxpayer money. It's Democratic, we can proudly say it's Democrat, but it's using taxpayer money. And when we do that, we cannot campaign in any way for ourselves, for anybody else. We can't go on and endorse a person or a ballot initiative. We cannot try to influence votes. So we can uplift all the good work that we're doing, but we can't use taxpayer money for any sort of campaigning. And so when I say stateside, that's what I'm referring to. When I'm on my stateside Facebook account, there are very clear rules about things that can be on there, things that can't be on there. There are rules like I can share from my campaign account, I can share things that's going on stateside, but I can't, for instance, if I'm hosting a fundraiser for campaign, I can't share that on my stateside. So that's just a distinction that we make in Lansing that I think very few voters are aware of. But when you're asking me like how to follow this information, I was just trying to point out to people that you'll want to probably do both. Right here in the Democratic Club, we mostly talk about things related to campaigns. Not this time of year as much, but often. But there are these stateside entities that are important to follow as well. Yes.
So when you say stateside, you mean go to michigan.gov. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So if I say like, go to my stateside page, it's through michigan.gov. I'm like, I don't know the URL, but you would go to those very official resources to sign up for my stateside newsletter. That's going to be through my official House of Representatives website. The stateside Facebook content is all paid for. A lot of that, those things that are generated there are paid for with taxpayer money. Yes. Yeah.
So people understand the difference and know how to find you.
That is a great question.
Repeat the question.
So the question is like, could I give you like the names of the accounts to help you understand? Gosh, this is
Generally, it'll say like Representative Natalie Price. That's official. If it says like Natalie for Representative, that's a campaign.
Usually.
Right?
Probably. That's a good way to tell for most people. I don't think mine does that, but usually if you're like on Facebook and it says Representative Mallory McMurrow, that Representative or Senator Mallory McMurrow, Representative Natalie Price, usually that's our stateside entity. Our profile picture will look more professionally done and very polished, maybe with an American flag behind us, right? Usually that's more stateside. And then if it says Mallory McMurrow for state senate or Natalie Price for state representative, then you know it's campaign, right? Clearly running or something. That's I should.
And we'll send an email with all the links.
Okay.
Look for both and follow them all.
Follow them. They both have different purposes, but they're all important.
I rep Price on Facebook and vote Natalie Price on Facebook. So those are the two.
Those are the two. My rep Price is my stateside Facebook and vote Natalie Price. Okay.
Then you have one called Natalie Price, political candidate also.
Okay. If it says political candidate, it's non-stateside.
Yeah.
Is that my MI or my MY?
It's really embarrassing. I don't know my own social media. Messaging was not my focus last term because we had real work to do and I had the ability to do it. It's going to be shifting this term, guys. Stay tuned for messaging. It's the tool I got, so I'm going to do better. I'm going to learn it more. All right. Well, thank you again. I'm always available. Reach out if you have any questions. Thanks.
Give round of applause. We are still looking at the Royal Points and Champions, and thank you so much. All right, so our wonderful Royal Oak City Commission, you want to step on up and introduce your names. We have all these new faces, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody, and what a fantastic turnout this is. I feel like we're all motivated by despair about what's happening in DC, but I'm gonna, on behalf of my fellow commissioners, gonna ask you to channel that into local politics. We have. Oh, sorry, I'm Char Douglas, City Commissioner. I'm in my third term as a city commissioner. I was first elected in 2013. At any rate, channel that despair into local action. This has been a great boots on the ground club over the years, supporting local candidates, doing the hard work of canvassing and knocking on doors. You've heard from one potential city commission candidate so far. Others will announce as time goes by. But be prepared to spend the summer and early fall campaigning to protect Royal Oak from the NIMBY crowd that pops up at every city commission meeting. Local news, our new city manager has taken action on something quickly to elevate our recreation and parks department. They have been nestled in the public works offices for a long time, and we are moving Parks and Rec into City Hall. This has the advantage, and we have like 51, 52, 53 parks. This is an important function and it needs to be more prominent. And so moving them into City Hall elevates the department, also makes it easier for people who want to come to the desk and register for recreation events and so forth. So you'll be learning more about that as time goes by. That's all from me. Next.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Amanda Herzog. I've been a commissioner for about a year. How many people, I come with good news. So, how many of you know about the Oakland County Water Resource Commissioner's Rain Smart program? Okay, I'm gonna tell you about this program. It's been a 2-year pilot. We just finished the first year. $60,000. Well, let me just tell you what the program is. So the Rain Smart rebate is a 2-year program from 2024, starting 2024 to 2025. Residential, it gears towards homeowners in the George W. Kuhn Drainage District. That's all of Royal Oak. The pilot offers homeowners $2,000 for implementing sustainable stormwater practices such as tree planting, rain barrel installation, and/or creating rain gardens on their properties. So they've been through the first year. Royal Oak came out. We had the most people apply for the program. They were able to, from these projects, it'll be able to capture 600,000 gallons of water. And yeah, it's great. And Royal Oak is capturing 250,000 of that. So there's going to be the next round of applications will start on March 1st. And so some of the highlights of the program this year was 60,000 in rebates, 500 per participant, 159 rain barrels were installed, 98 native trees were planted, and 49 rain gardens were installed. Again, applications open March 1st. To learn more about it, Royal Oak is going to have a couple informational talks. So at the Royal Oak Library on February 27th at 6 p.m., you can come and learn more. Or if you prefer having brew with your information or beers with your information, Brown Iron Brew House on March 5th at 6 p.m. Yes.
Will there be grants for getting trees on the tree lawns through the city?
On the easement?
Yeah, on the easement.
On the easement, yes. That's
continuing.
That's continual.
Amen.
Yes.
Sorry.
I don't know when that program starts, but we plant about 700 trees a year, and it's continual. In easements.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and then the other thing I want to talk about is how many people know about the MDOT's plan to invest in Woodward and do a corridor plan. Okay, no one's, a couple. So, they're doing a corridor plan from Detroit to Pontiac. And they've been engaging the mayors along Woodward to talk about how we can make Woodward safer, more connected, think about transit in different ways, make it more people friendly. So I live at 10 in Maine, and I have two young kids, and the zoo is right across the street. But it's very dangerous to be crossing Woodward to go to the zoo for the day, so we have to drive. And that's a shame because we're so close. So this is really an opportunity to re-envision Woodward, not change, like, we just don't need it to be an unsafe highway going through main streets, right? But it could be whatever you want, because they're gonna have an open house where you can express your thoughts on Woodward. So the open house hosted by MDOT, this is an MDOT initiative, is in person at Pleasant Ridge Community Center on February 18th from noon to 2 or 4 to 6. And then they're going to have a virtual open house on February 20th from 4 to 6. And I think you've been posting about.
We'll share again.
Oh, great.
We'll share more.
Yeah, so come out. I think Woodward was had the first traffic light. The first paved street is a premier avenue, a lot of historical significance. And I think it's an opportunity for it to be safer and an opportunity for economic development. But those are my opinions that I will be sharing. So feel free to come out and share yours. Yes. Yes, so it's all through state funding. They're doing the corridor plan to figure out investments for the next 20 years, but engaging the whole corridor. Any other questions? Yes.
So if we want mass transit trolley cars running up and down and you need to be there and say, this is something I'm interested in.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Make trolley great again.
Yes.
Do you need to be there for the full 2 hours?
I don't think so. I think it's just going to be like an open house. They're going to present a few things, and that's what my understanding is. Yep. Who's next?
Morning, everybody. I'm Commissioner Rebecca Chisholm. I haven't been able to be here for a while. I've had some work conflicts, so I'm really, really pleased to be here with you all today. But that's not my wake up alarm going on. So I was just going to talk about a couple of things. First off, I know that the mood among Democrats can be pretty blue right now, and I just want to reiterate the impact that you can have at the local level. And I really encourage you. You are all obviously people who are invested in your community. You're here this morning, so I would really encourage you to think about ways that you can contribute in a positive way to our community. There's so many organizations that you can volunteer with or make donations to that make a big difference here in Royal Oak. So I definitely encourage you to think about the impact that you can have and show the values that we really share as a community and that I think are really overwhelming in Royal Oak. So that's my little cheerleading spiel. I also want to talk about everyone's favorite topic in Royal Oak, parking. So Commissioners Herzog, Douglas, and myself are serving on the parking committee that we are looking to select the replacement parking system for the city of Royal Oak. Yeah. So I just want to give you a little bit of information about this. So the city did end up in an agreement with our current vendor to end the relationship early. Yay! So this current system will be going through December 31st of 2025. We are working really hard to make sure that we are ready to flip a switch to the new system right after that, which is important because we do need some revenues from our parking system for our financial stability. And so we're working to select that system. We're working on a committee in collaboration with the Downtown Development Authority of Royal Oak and also the police and a representative from the court who has to deal with all the parking tickets, the parking ticket complaints. We're all working together. We brought in a consultant who really knows parking, like really knows all the systems out there, their pros and cons. And so we are working with them to kind of select a system. And some of the things I think is really exciting. We are going to be having, well, we're not there yet. I don't have a date, but when it gets to really selecting, narrowing down from the last couple, like what system we're going to go to, we're going to have some trial systems, showcases where community members can come and actually like interface with the meter system, whatever it's going to look like at that time. We're also considering the feedback that we've gotten over the years. We know that there is people who love apps, people who love coins. We really want to try to accommodate all those asks. I hear you. So we're listening to all the feedback, we're looking at all the options that are gonna be out there. We're also thinking about how the world has changed, and we also think about things of like, Uber drivers and Uber Eats and things like that. So we're really trying to identify a great system for Royal Oak that's gonna serve everyone's needs.
Get rid of it.
I've heard that people do not like the back end parking, so. Okay, so the system is ending December 31st, and then the new system, and then, so there will be an opportunity for you to try the new system. I think the other thing I was gonna talk about was Winterfest, or do you want to?
No, go ahead.
Winterfest?
Winter Blast.
Winter Blast. It is a blast. So Commissioner Colo and I were out there this morning at 6 o'clock in the morning to do some press for Winter Blast with our children. And they have the zip lined up. They have a lot of games for the kids. And it's happening today, 11 to 11 tomorrow.
11 to 8.
11 to 8 tomorrow. So definitely it's a fun time right down in downtown Royal Oak. It's a little cold out there, but if you bundle up and bring your hand warmers, you'll be okay.
Free admission.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm still cold for being out there since 6 o'clock this morning.
Hey, that's not fun.
I'm Commissioner Brandon Polo. Happy to see so many new faces today. So, one thing that Commissioner Cheese and Vince said is that we also had breakfast with Representative Haley Stevens, who is also at Winter Blast today. And, she did paint a picture. It's doom and gloom in DC right now. This is not fun. Things are just going sideways every second, and every day it's something new. And some days it's like 10 new things, and everything is just, excuse my language, batshit crazy. Like everything is crazier than the last. A lot of it's distractions also, right? So, this is Project 2025 unfolding just the way they told us. They're doing exactly what they said they would do. So this is no surprise. Representative Stevens was not all doom and gloom though. She knows that this is a long game. We are here, we're in it, and we're gonna make it through this. So one thing she did impart is that she wants to make sure everyone stays involved. We can't take our eyes off of it. It's going to be bad for a while, but we make it better. And I talked about this last time I started one. We do it locally. We've talked about that a lot today. Here locally, we make sure that things keep on moving forward, that we're looking out for those most in need, that we're looking out for those that they're trying to take away breaks from nationally. Representative Price and the Michigan legislature, the Democrats did a great job last year enshrining a lot of our rights into the Michigan law. They can't be taken away. And locally, we've been doing that too. So this year we have an election coming up, and these elections have big consequences here. I'll tell you, we just had a city commission meeting on Monday where we had to take a break because people were arguing with the mayor from the crowd. These commission meetings are, it's like a courtroom. We're here to have a conversation amongst ourselves, to try to debate and come to the best conclusion. It's not a reason, it's not a playground. You just yell at people left and right. That's not how you conduct yourselves in public. And there's people who are yelling or running against us this year. And the city commission, you look at what we do. So yeah, we do talk about parking, we talk about some large policies. But one very important part is that we appoint people to boards and committees. We appoint people to our planning commission. Planning commission takes the first look at any project that comes throughout the city. We appoint people to the environmental advisory board. They look and try to see how we're going to move sustainability forward at any given time in the city. They're the ones coming up with these grand ideas. City commission's only 7 people. We rely on the literal hundreds of volunteers that we have in our community to keep us moving forward. So when you're voting for us, you're voting for not only us, but making sure we have the right volunteers in the right places. That's what we're going to continue to fight for. We're going to continue to make sure that Royal Oak is a place that we want to live, that we're welcoming, that our neighborhoods are, awesome places. So that being said, let's keep it going. And speaking of re-election, I give myself a little boost here. I have an election coming up this year. It's been 4 years now since I was first elected. So on January 20th, I'm having a fundraiser. 40th birthday this month. Oh yeah, February, yeah. That's my birthday, try to ignore it. So February 20th, 5th Ave, that's our usual bar night for the Royal Oak Dems. I'm trying not to take too many extra nights in any given month. So I'm providing appetizers. Let's come out and have a good time. It's free, you can make a donation if you want to, I definitely appreciate it. But if not, come out, we're gonna have, elected officials from all different levels of government, but more importantly, a lot of us, like just neighbors, let's come out, have a conversation, have fun. So I hope to see everyone there.
Where's it at?
Okay, I'll take 2 questions.
Yeah, I think this is both for our city commission and our state rep. What is the impact of the pause on federal grant funding? I imagine that there are dollars that are supposed to be flowing through to the city, to the state that are paused and or may go away.
Yeah, so I've actually dealt with that a little this week. So I'm also on the zoo board, and the zoo board has a National Science Foundation grant that they absolutely stopped. They stopped sending the money to. The government stopped sending money. I said it's on the zoo board. We had a Science Foundation grant that they absolutely paused. There's an injunction, it's been blocked. Some departments are listening, some departments aren't. Here in Royal Oak, we're actually putting together, and this is crazy to think about. Trump has caused every municipality to scramble to exactly figure out the exact revenue source where it's all coming from. Because a lot of this stuff is on autopilot. We set the budget, we know it's coming in, it's reliably came in, we know the amounts that are coming in. Now we have to check all of our funding to see if it's been impacted or not. And this is happening in Royal Oak, it's happening all across the state. Senator Slotkin had a webinar with a lot of us recently. And she's concerned about this also. So, every level of government's concerned about this. For sure.
I'm on the Partners for Clean Water with SEMCOG. And
You're loud, but we have a
I know, but I'm on the committee for Partners for Clean Water through SEMCOG. They have a grant for environmental justice, putting green stormwater infrastructure in these neglected communities where there's a lot of flooding. And that has a real big impact on our water quality and our in Southeast Michigan. And they're moving ahead, but they're baby stepping and not pausing, but baby stepping because they're not sure how they can help these communities.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, here in Royal Oak locally, a big one, we spend about $1 million a year on senior services that we get from federal money. It's block grant funding. That helps improve their homes for free. If you're a senior, you get $10,000 for free. We'll come put on new gutters, replace your roof. We'll give you another, I think, 35,000 as a very low percentage loan, so you can make all these improvements. And we'll defer those payments. You can defer them as long as you want. I think it's like a 30-year term. You don't have to make a payment on it. That's from federal funds. Yeah, it's up to 45 total. Yeah, so this is money that goes straight to seniors programming. We use that money to help clear sidewalks for seniors, do chores around their homes, provide transportation. You saw there's 6 buses outside. We use that to help seniors get to and from the doctors. All these are in barrel right now, so we're trying to see what might be found.
Can you be really, I would encourage you to, I know you're assessing it at this moment, but it's really helpful to communicate. Because I don't know that they were necessarily thinking about how that's impacting us here.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, right? 10 things a day, every day is happening. Our city manager's been in communication, they're actually working on this. The city's gonna make it very clear on what we have and what's being impacted. So I'll see a couple more hands. I'll tell you what, you guys can give me after the meeting. I know Michael has some stuff coming out. So, you guys give me after the meeting. Thanks.
You want to answer my question?
This is what I have to say.
You have to be constructive or no?
Okay, guys. Okay. You know what? Wait, I'll listen to both. Nancy, go ahead.
I am a Democrat.
Mr. Suitland was in the UAW. He's been a Democrat supporter.
Beginning to be honest. I got stuck down, I'm sorry. Okay, it's scary. I'm scared that what's gonna happen to everything. It's like we were talking about just equality in general. We've got to be diligent, outspoken, and also coming to meetings at the city. We have a master plan that's coming up. It's not all bad. I'm not a NIMBY. Please don't call people that are concerned about their neighborhoods NIMBYs.
Right.
We have had things happen in our neighborhoods that have not been good. Not everything. I'm not blasting the whole city.
Do you have a question?
Please read the master plan.
Do you have a
Okay,
question?
Yep, that's, you know, Nancy, you're right. You should read the master plan. It's, yep, it's under,
That be aware that not
You have a
all
question, I'm sorry.
neighborhoods
Nancy,
are
you have a
going
question?
to benefit.
Nancy, you have a
Yes.
question?
Are
What
all
is the
neighborhoods,
question?
okay, the question is, are all neighborhoods gonna benefit with high rises and encroaching in our?
I disagree. Do I get?
Okay.
All right, let's.
I'm not saying all, I'm saying all, but mine.
All right, thank you so much to the city commission.
I'll take any questions in the hallway if you have them.
Let's go next to our wonderful school board.
I wanna talk in front of all these people. What do you guys think about the insufficient fees
All right,
on Rochester Road?
all right, so you're free to have a conversation outside the hall.
You just said no.
All right, sir, you're free to go outside. All right, our wonderful school board, come on up. All right, guys, we don't do this. Guys, stop, we're not doing this. Okay, sir, you're free to go outside with the committee. All right, our school board is up next. We'll go with Tim. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, Tim.
Anybody have that?
Thank you, Tim.
I'm a white Democrat. I'm not gonna vote for a Republican in my life.
Talk about some super non-controversial issues like immigration and diversity.
Now we have a microphone.
School board members have a meeting today. Let's start with what has happened on our school board in January. We are required by state statute to elect officers every year. We have a committee.
It's hard to hear you. We can't never. You can't. Hold it out.
How about that?
And, no, okay. And louder.
I'm like a cell phone.
Okay.
So we elected new officers on the school board, which we're required to do every January. I am currently and very excited and proud to have been selected by my colleagues on the school board as president. We had a lead president with us today too. Erica Alexander is serving as vice president and what's called the dean of the school board. Deb Anderson is continuing her service to our community and school board as secretary. I want to discuss a few things that you've all heard nationally, and I heard this on the radio on the way here today, and I think it explains exactly how I felt. That somehow the term DEI has become the new N word in our country. I see it perfectly.
We're getting none of it.
Slightly slower, your words are running together. And just a little bit, like, louder.
Yes. But I want everyone to know that our dedication and stance on the school board is to continue with the DEI work that we've started. To let outside distractions stop us from the work that we've started, and they work with them to continue. And we have any questions about DEI policies within the school district? Excellent. We'll now move to about teacher contact.
Hey, everyone. My name is Lauren Jasinski. I'm also one of the trustees on our school board here in Royal Oak. As a lot of the previous speakers had mentioned, we are hyper-focused on federal decisions way more than we ever are normally. Michigan especially is a super local control state of our schools, and we are usually able to kind of just right? Make the decisions that we know are best for our community. And a lot of the decisions that are happening at the federal level are making that very, very difficult. And as Trina said earlier, we know that we're looking at a lot of like reactive decisions over the next couple of years, which makes long-term planning really difficult. But as Tim said, we do want people to know that we're dedicated to our values here. You have a school board that represents our community, that listens to our community. We're not going to be intimidated by changes that are telling us to not represent students, to not be inclusive to students. We are not cooperating with ICE to whatever extent that even means. We're not allowed to in the first place, right? It is protected by the Michigan Constitution that we educate students regardless of their immigration status. And for the most part, we don't know a student's immigration status or their parents' immigration status. And that will not be something that we are asking or giving to officials unless that there's a warrant signed by a judge, which is the only way that a law enforcement officer can enter our county. That's been communicated to our teachers. Our front office staff knows what to do. We are not expressly worried about that in Royal Oak as a community, but we do know that everyone being on the same page makes us all, a little bit safer and a little bit easier to go throughout our days. We know our kids are worried about it. We know that they are listening to everything that we are too, right? And so trying to be as honest with them and upfront with them. But our priority in Royal Oak is always to keep kids safe. And in that same note, we were talking about it in the back, and I can't remember if I mentioned this last week or not. But another huge shout out to State Rep Natalie Price, because she's been on the front lines with us in terms of gun safety as it relates to schools from the very beginning. One of the things we were able to do in lame duck was a kind of last minute addition to the safe storage bill that was passed about a year, or that took effect about a year ago. That there's now an additional law that all public schools are also responsible for transmitting that information about the state safe storage laws to families every fall with their back to school information. That we're also communicating to parents, hey, do you know that Michigan officially has a safe storage law that if you have kids at home, firearms need to be locked up separate from ammos and stored away from reach of anybody who's under 18. And that if you don't, and a crime is committed, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. And that information lives on school websites. We connect families with free or low cost ways to get firearm safety apparatus, material, appliances, whatever it is. So we're proud of being along with that right from the very beginning. Royal Oak has shared safe storage information and gun safety information with districts for going on, I think, almost 4 years now. So it's not new to us, but we will ramp it up. You might see some messaging about that a lot more. We're also going to have gun locks available in the front offices of all of our schools. So if that's something that parents ask for or mention or have a question about, we will be able to give them to those for free. There's also gun locks available at the Royal Oak Police Department. No questions asked, for free, 24 hours a day. So just so you guys know about some resources too.
Thank you. My name is Michelle Cook, and thanks to my colleagues on the board, I have been given the role of treasurer on the school board for this coming year. And I want to talk a little bit about the school funding, and that a couple of things. I started thinking of some of these things as the presentation that we first saw at the beginning of the meeting was going on. And one is that there is a group called the School Finance Research Collaborative, affectionately known the SFRC, right? And they have done a great job of quantifying what it takes to educate a student. What funding do we need? And so they've kind of been doing this in phases. And this next phase that they're in, they have asked schools to provide information about their infrastructure, their buildings, all that sort of thing, because that was not part of the original cost that was reported. Another thing that was also not included in their original dollar amount was the cost of transportation. Currently, there are no specific dollars that are sent to a district for transportation. And according to their report, transportation costs should be funded at $973 per rider. So that is a significant issue as to trying to have transportation in our school districts. Another thing I wanted to talk about is the executive order freezing funds to schools, to all sorts of entities, all government agencies, basically tying that to, I guess, this litmus test of, do you have DEI policies, and are these monies being used for those policies? One of the things that, of course, it was kind of rescinded, the memo was rescinded, but maybe not the actual initiative that they said about the freezing of funds, and a judge has blocked that for now. But it is concerning when we think about things like school lunches. Of course, we have a wonderful initiative that the governor put in place that funds, make sure that all kids receive free lunch. However, it is still the case that the federal government reimburses us for the portion of lunches for students that qualify as needing a free or reduced lunch. So that would be a significant funding gap that would be visited upon our state if that executive order were to go forward. Other funding that we use, Title I funding, you may have heard of. Often it is used for things like helping struggling readers. Okay, this is money that supplements our school funding, that is federal funding, that could be, again, in jeopardy because of these policies. And so I just want to kind of give you like the real life costs of what they are saying, that proposing that they want to do. And so it's something that is so new that we haven't had a chance to really go through our budget and look at what impact that may have. But just know that this is the sort of pressure that they're trying to put on our schools to force our hand. And it's upsetting because at the base of it, what we are trying to do is have a welcoming community for all of our students, to foster a sense of belonging for all of our kids. And so this is something that we have to push very hard against. Thank you.
Not to like make all of our meetings into memes, but one thing that I did, I was reading about earlier that I just like wanted to share with you while I'm allowed to have a microphone, was that as Tim had mentioned, this like kind of this usage of DEI as sort of this catch-all phrase, and how it's becoming a negative thing from certain parts of our government, that if we kind of as a collective begin to actually just ask, like when we're talking, that we don't use the acronym DEI, that we actually say diversity, equity, and inclusion, because it really points out to someone that, right, that if you are speaking to someone who is against those things, right, you're repeatedly reminding them that they are against inclusion, right? And that shouldn't be something that we tolerate from anybody, even if we have political differences. So I read that the other day. It's not even something I thought of. We're so jargony, especially Democrats. We use a lot of acronyms, but I really liked that tip. Yeah.
Sorry, I just looked back at my notes and noticed too. Lauren and I also serve on the library board, and something that was communicated to us is that, because as part of that board, I did ask, is this going to affect our funding, which is mostly from our millage, and so I wasn't sure if anything could be affected. But one thing that could be affected is MEL, which is the Michigan electronic library. So again, this is very concerning that it could impact information that's available to all Michiganders,
for free.
For free, exactly. On a more positive note, our FIRST Robotics team has a booth at the Winter Blast, and they are, I believe, selling probably water or something like that, to help fund. They hope to go to Worlds. So if you can go out and support our FIRST Robotics team, that'd be terrific. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you very much. Michael, there was a question. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Is Mel the Libby app? Are you download the
No, it's
okay.
but yeah.
Well, thank you so much for a wonderful school board. Thank you so much. All right, so we have a few last items to catch up on. Number one, so this month we have really two cool opportunities. We have our first trip. Oh, by the way, so we have something called Royal Oak Rising. Royal Oak Rising is our Younger Democrats outreach group, and they create really cool events that is welcome to everybody. But one thing we did this month is our wine night, and it was a wonderful conversation, tons of new faces. So we're trying to expand upon that. So Sunday, February 16th, 6:30, North End Tap Room. We have trivia night. So I need someone who knows sports because I don't know that. So I'll do that. We also have our February book club. John Dickerson book. He has Whistle Stop. We're going to do that at Bamboo in Royal Oak, February 19th at 7 p.m. to anyone who's interested there. And now a few last items. Number one is the board had a meeting to have two changes. So previously we used to have a scholarship fund, and what the board discussed was the scholarship fund had really good intents, but we didn't really get a lot of engagement after that. So what we want to change to is what we did before with Royal Oak Rising is actually use that money for our internship. So we're going to have a summer internship program and have a stipend. And that way we have a paid internship program, get young people involved and have more of an engagement. So that's kind of the plan of what we're switching over to. The second change is we're trying to align ourselves. We're very grateful for all our, our paid due members, but we got to pay for these rooms, pay for our events. So we're going to change it. So if you pay this month, $10, it's still $10. Next month, we're going to $15. So the board's able to change that. So that's going to be as of March 1st of this year. So $10 to $15. And then $5 of the $10 will go towards our internship program.
Say dues.
I'm sorry?
Say dues.
Dues, what did I say?
I think you have to say dues. Dues are going from $10.
Dues, what did I say? I'm sorry.
You failed to use the word dues. You said doo-doo.
Okay. Sorry, our dues are going from $10 to $15. So if you pay this month, this is $10. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm sorry, guys. All right. Carl, you want to come up? And before you guys leave today, there's a really cool post opportunity for anyone interested about interning, which Carl will talk about. But there's a lot of new faces. If you can tell me how you've heard about us, because we want to keep growing, so let us know. Okay, here, bro.
Hello, everybody. So also to piggyback and look at what Lauren said about when people talk about DEI, she said, yeah, ask about, you're talking about inclusion, also use the term civil rights. So when people say DEI, oh, you're talking about civil rights. So when they say they're against it, they're against civil rights. Just use that. Couple things, Dems and Beer last year was a success, I think. We had great turnout. This year, I think we're gonna get a little easier, an earlier head start on it. So I'm just looking for people who want to help out on the board, a little committee for that. I already have some of the people that already signed up for the committee. If you want to be part of planning Dems and Beer and executing Dems and Beer, either get with me after the meeting or email Royal Democrat or on our Facebook. You can find that on our Facebook page if you need to. After that, we had just a little housekeeping thing. Looking at our bylaws, which I don't know how you guys, if you guys understand how our club works. So our club has an elected board. That's the chair, vice chair, secretary, and treasurer. That's the elected board. Then there's also another committee that also helps make decisions. We meet quarterly. And then the general membership is who pays the dues and comes to our meetings and participates. So just recently getting involved in the county, I realized that the wording we use for our elected board and our executive committee was different than what the county uses. When I asked around other clubs also use different language. So all I'm asking is in our bylaws, to change anything in our bylaws, you have to first bring it to the general membership at a meeting. So everybody has a month to think about it. And at our next meeting, you will vote them that in or not voting them. So all I did was took our bylaws and changed what we call our committees. And you'll see it as any changes come out as red, and what I've struck through is what it used to be. So it used to be officials, and then it used to be executive board. Yeah. So all I did there was change the language on there, take a look at it, so that you know what we're talking about when we bring it to a general membership vote next month.
But we need to make a motion to vote for it.
So we have a motion by Ian, second by Mary, to bring it to a vote next month. So please do me a favor, go online, look it over. I think you're gonna email as well. So that's the second thing. Third thing, on tyranny. Who's read this book? This book was written by Timothy Schneider in 2017. He is an expert on American history. He's an expert on political history, elections. He wrote an awesome, very easy read, 20-point book on what is tyranny, the ways to spot what tyranny is, and how to fight tyranny. And I know all of us have been feeling since the election, especially what we're watching these last 2 weeks, we all feel like we need to do something. And I know there's going to come a time soon that we are all going to be marching, standing, protesting soon together. This to me is a great start. If everybody can read this book and educate yourself on this, we have a great start to start fighting for the next 2 and 4 years to get back what they're taking away from us. But with that, after this meeting, I've rented the room directly across the hall for 1 more hour. Anyone who wants to talk about this book, let's talk about it. So that we all feel comfortable with it and everybody can get more acquainted with it. If you don't want to make today's meeting, we're going to hold another one in another month from now. Not sure yet when. We'll put that out in the email as well. But yeah, please join us. We're going to talk about it. Kitty Corner in room 3 across the way. What's that?
What are you talking about?
On Tyranny, the book. So we're going to talk about On Tyranny, the book. But if you read it, it'll tell you what we're talking about. Anybody have any questions? Charlie.
Yeah, I just wanted to, again, thank everyone well job for our road driving, the line night, big success. And what we'll see in, everyone's future events. So, thanks.
And a huge thank you to Eric and Peyton who run the World Rising. It was phenomenal. Thank you so much. Mike James, about city commission races.
Yes. There's a city commission race?
I hear there is. So about every 2 years, unofficially, a lot of Democrats in the city of Royal Oak begin kind of getting together and getting names together and figuring out who has time. And we work together to collect signatures for the incumbents for the Royal Oak City Commission. Why is that important? Well, if you like a progressive city that listens to a lot of different voices across the community and helps the community do the things that we need to do day-to-day life, we have a commission now that does that. They don't listen to one group or another, they listen to all of us, even the ones we disagree with, and they try to make a better city. So a number of us unofficially, just on our own, we get together and we help collect signatures for the commissioners who are running for election, and we get them on the ballot, basically. Later on, the club itself here will select who they want to support, and that's a different matter. But if you are interested, just kind of us volunteers, and I'm not speaking as a club officer, if you're interested in helping get good candidates onto the ballot, please come to me. I'll get your names. We'll do a lot of good things through the spring and to make that happen. My name is Mike James. I'm sitting right next to the camera there. Please tell me if you are available or you just want to know more information. Thank you so much.
All right, last year, you guys may have remembered, so there's a big NIMBY community. There's also an Oakland County YIMBY community. Yes, my backyard. They're having their big event in Ferndale at Trigger Coffee. So that's on our social media. But if you want, that is a great opportunity. How we talk about housing. Otherwise, yes, go ahead.
Lectures today. I don't know how we engage with that or understand it, or is there any insights that we can provide about how we think about the national interest, the Democratic national?
A local club, I don't have an immediate answer. Yeah, I'm
Cash, can I?
Yeah, Brandon, there you go.
Yep, hey. Okay, so really good news. So once again, talking to Haley Stevens today, she doesn't have a vote at the DNC, which is like mind-boggling. One who does have a vote though is Dave Woodward, who's been there for 2 days whipping up votes. So locally, I know that we are well represented with Dave, and he's been working on that. I don't know what time the election is today, but there's only 460 some people that vote for the chair of the DNC. And somehow, because everything works out for Dave Woodward, he is one of them. You know, of all the things I asked him, I forgot to ask him that. I think, I know Dave had meetings with almost every candidate, and he was, Dave is very thorough in what he does. He doesn't go into something with a exposed idea. So I know as of last night, he was actually still figuring out who's gonna be the best person to lead us forward. You know, this is, it's a big decision. There's, you know, we need to make a fundamental shift in how we're approaching things and talking to people, and that's happening today. Paul.
I mean, just like, related, you're talking about the federal. We, on February 22nd will be the Michigan Democratic Party's state convention, where we elect the state chair of the Democratic Party. So anyone who's a member of the Michigan Democratic Party can attend that event, and it's taking place at the Renaissance Center. It's an all day, well, from 9 o'clock to like 3 o'clock. And if you're a precinct, if you're a member, you can go, you have to be a member by January.
Passed.
So you can't be a member now and then go.
You can't vote.
You can, I'm not sure, they're credentialed when you go in, so I wouldn't say that. But if you're a precinct delegate, you don't, you can go, you didn't have to be a member of the Democratic Party. But anyway, a way in which you can participate in the election of the Michigan state chair.
Yep. Okay. Thanks.
All right, the very last thing is a lot of new faces. Thank you for coming out. This is a very welcoming club. A little squirmers earlier. That's not normal. We're a very civil, cool club. So we hope to see you future events. Can I get a motion to adjourn? And anyway, but anyone who wants to do the attorney, it's that room across there after the meeting if you want to come. All right, motion to adjourn. Oh, Lauren? Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, sorry. Okay, second. All right. Can I adjourn? Ayes? Okay, bye. Thank you, everybody.